use the chat feature. We do have a moderator in the room also who will be helping to answer some of those questions in the chat. But if you also have a question that you'd like to ask me or verbalize for the good of the group, you can wait till the end. I appreciate, and then, you can unmute yourself and ask questions of me. All right, so it's been a little while since I've done the Zoom, so bear with me a little bit. But I am Mrs. Stephanie Colon, and I'm the College and Career Specialist at Land O'Lakes High School. This is my 12th school year, so I've been here about 11 years. I just had 11 years, I think in January was the anniversary. So tonight I'm tasked with going over a very large topic of financial aid and bright futures. This is a presentation that I hold here at school for our 12th graders actually in the early fall. And it's usually a little over an hour in length. So we're trying to cut this down in a pretty short period of time. I'm from the north, so I talk really fast. Hopefully you'll be able to keep up, but if you need clarification or something needs repeating, just make sure you ask either in the chat or of me at the end. So tonight we're just talking money, 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 financial aid. So just as a brief, glossary lesson, financial aid is really just all money. Financial aid, money, all funding sources that we're going to be using toward paying for all of those college expenses. So I have students a lot come in and say, I want to apply for financial aid. And I always say, well, what funding, what type of financial aid are we looking at? And most of the time they don't know, or they don't understand the process, which is why nights like this are helpful. And so I break them down into these 4 categories. And so I have institutional aid, federal aid, state aid, and then those private scholarships. So I also list these 4 funding streams in order of likelihood. So your most likely source of money is going to be institutional aid, and then it goes kind of less likely, of course, in that order. So we're going to go into each of those funding streams a little bit more in depth, and when you would apply, how you would apply, and hopefully get a little bit of all of it. That's what we hope for. So the most likely source and most common source of financial aid for students come from the institution, the college itself where they end up attending. Students during the time of application, they're submitting their academic records, their SAT or ACT scores. So a university or a college is automatically considering them for admissions, and at the same time, they're looking at their merit, or other words, to potentially award their institutional or college scholarships at the same time. I'm always encouraging our students to apply as early as possible to a university or college, because the earlier you apply, you have the most consideration for admission, but also they have the most money that they haven't allocated to other students yet. Some colleges are very transparent about what those requirements are. USF, for example, you can just Google USF freshman admission scholarships, and they're very clear. If you have this GPA, this test score, this will be your award, as long as you submit your application by a certain date. Other schools are a little bit more tight-lipped about that. They're not as upfront or transparent about what those requirements are. But generally applying early as possible, fall of senior year. I like to give a deadline of November 1st to have the college applications done, making sure that you're meeting all of those admission as well as scholarship deadlines. Yes, most merit-based scholarships are merit, so it's based on higher GPA, highest test scores as high as possible. Students have the opportunity to test SAT more than once, which is a good idea. Most students tend to improve a second or third attempt. And just really reiterating from 9th grade all the way up how important those courses, grades, taking challenging courses, so that maybe that GPA is weighted, so it's a little bit higher, about how important that is for all years of high school, not just junior year, or not just one certain year. It's all 4 years of high school matter. And then again, generally you're considered for merit-based scholarships at the time of application. In a lot of my presentations, I say maybes and it depends, because every school does things a little different. There are some schools that invite you to apply to their merit-based scholarships, or they notify you that you're going to have an interview or something like that. But most colleges do automatically consider you for their merit-based scholarships of application. All right, our second funding stream is our federal aid. So FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, has been around for a real long time. This year is the last year where it's 108 questions. Next year, they're paring it down to, I think, about 33. So it's going to be a lot easier than it used to be, if any of us remembers filling that out. It is a federal application for financial aid through the federal government. So it opens October 1st, and we encourage all students to complete after October 1st of their senior year. And then it's an application that's submitted annually. So each year that they're going to be attending college that following year, you'd want to complete that application and submit. So it is one application. Like I said, right now it's about 108 questions. It's not going to be that long going forward, fortunately, but it is looking at eligibility for federal need-based grants. So that's based on household income, family size, assets. So it's going to ask a lot of personal information, a lot of information that you as parent will know. The student does not need to know that. And I definitely don't either. So that's something that you'll do on your own. So it's looking at the need-based grants. It's also looking at eligibility for federally backed student loans, and then a program called Work Study. Many universities and colleges will want you to submit a federal financial aid application, the FAFSA, because they can then look at that need to then potentially put in their own funding in addition to. So when I talked about in the previous slide, with the institutional aid, sometimes it's based on merit, but sometimes it's based on the need identified through the FAFSA. So I usually do encourage most students to fill it out, even if you don't think that you would qualify for the need-based grant money, because a college may use that information to potentially award additional funds. Also important, I always touch on, make sure that you are going to the government website. So the free application for federal student aid, free application, free. So if you go to like FAFSA.com, that website will charge you like $70 to complete the free application. Encourage you, make sure that you're looking at the correct web address so that you're not paying money for that free application. All right, so then the third level, or the third pot of money that we are looking at, is our state of Florida aid, so the state financial aid. So this is money that is facilitated through the Office of Student Financial Assistance, and it is called the Florida Financial Aid Application. I've been working for 11 years to try to get people to stop calling it the Bright Futures Application, because it is another acronym called the FFAA, the Florida Financial Aid Application, because there are many grants and scholarships, I think about 14, that does include Florida Bright Futures, but it also includes many others: a Florida Student Assistance Grant, a Florida Resident Assistance Grant, which is just for students going to a private university in the state of Florida, a Jose Marti scholarship, and then many more. So I'm trying to get away from only referring to Bright Futures, just because I found that if students feel like they may not qualify for that academic scholarship, they wouldn't apply at all. And then they're automatically excluding themselves from many other opportunities. So that application also, like the FAFSA, opens October 1st of a student's senior year. Students need to submit that application by August 31st after they graduate. But I always am on students. You can apply as early as October 1st, and anytime after that. Applying early is always a good idea. You get it done, you don't have to worry about it. Eligibility for those scholarships, especially Bright Futures, is not determined until after graduation. So you can apply early, continue to work on meeting those eligibility requirements, and then it's looked at after high school graduation. And then those scholarship dollars, as a reminder, can only be used at Florida colleges, state college, community college, technical colleges, but it has to be a Florida post-secondary institution. So going into Bright Futures a little bit more. So these are the two scholarships that can be used at a community college or state college or a university in the state of Florida. So we're looking at those more academic sides. So the top academic award is called the Florida Academic Scholar, FAS, and it covers equal to 100% of that in-state tuition and fees at a public institution. So PHSE, USF, Florida State, those. If a student goes to a private university, so like St. Leo, University of Tampa, it does pay toward those private institutions, but at the public university rate. So basically, whatever would be awarded if a student was attending USF, that would be about the equal award offered at one of those private universities. So it wouldn't be equal to 100% at a private school. So the requirements, and this is for the current junior class and after. The current junior class and later, and it could always change, but this is as current as we have, is a 3.5 weighted grade point average on 16 credits. So it's the core classes plus the world language. So 4 English, 4 math, 3 social studies, 3 science, and then the 2 consecutive world language credits. And it's a 29 ACT or 1340 SAT, and either 100 hours of community service or 100 paid work hours. That's the top academic scholar. The next level down is called the Florida Medallion Scholar, and that will cover about 75% of the student at a public university, or, and this is new from a couple of years ago, which is really great, if a student decides to attend a community or state college like PHSC to earn their AA degree, they will actually cover that AA degree at 100%. And then when they transfer to university, it drops to the 75%. Okay. The requirements for that are a little lower, 3.0, 3.0 weighted GPA on those same 16 credits plus the world language, 25 ACT or 1210 SAT, super score and composite, and then a 75 hours of the community service or 100 paid work hours. And then the third tier for Florida Bright Futures is a Gold Seal Vocational Scholar. This is for students who have completed a vocational program while in high school. Example, here at Land O'Lakes High School, we have a culinary academy. So for students that want to pursue a technical degree or certificate or diploma after high school, and they completed culinary 1, 2, and 3, they could potentially be eligible for the Gold Seal Vocational Scholar. This is not a program that is, or a scholarship that can be used at like a USF. Okay, so this is specifically for students looking at going to a technical college or getting an Associate of Science or a more technical degree. All right, and then the last funding stream is kind of the least likely to be funding your education. However, I always tell students, you may not be chosen, but you definitely will not be chosen. You have a 0% chance of being chosen if you don't even apply. So should you apply for those private scholarships that are found? Absolutely, 100%. But understanding just the likelihood in order, you may have to apply to many, which you should, in order to increase your chances of being selected. So private scholarships have a variety of eligibility based on each opportunity. They can have multiple steps or multiple requirements in order to have a completed application. Some, it's as simple as an online submission. You complete an application real quick and you're done. I have some sitting on my desk right now that require an essay, a letter of recommendation, a copy of their transcript, and a whole lot of other things. So getting copies or getting some of that those pieces of the puzzle ahead of time can really help enable quicker submissions once you start finding those scholarships. But really, it's just private companies, organizations, banks, your employer. There are local, state, and national scholarships. So I'm always encouraging students to use that. I listed, 3 of the websites that I like to use that I think are user friendly, but there are many, many, many out there. It's really just about finding a website that you think is easy to navigate, identifying, what ones you're eligible for, and then just applying to as many as possible. I'm always encouraging students to focus on those more local or smaller scholarships, just because it's going to be a applicant pool who is eligible to apply. It just makes sense. If you're applying to a Best Buy scholarship where 1 million people can apply or are eligible, then you're 1 in a million. But if you're applying for scholarships, which we have just for Land O'Lakes High School or just for Pasco County, that maximum in Pasco County is like 5,500 students. So obviously the applicant pool is much, much, much smaller. So that's where I would really focus the time and energy. My recommendation for searching for private scholarships is to pick a day, 30 minutes, sit down, find some, complete some applications, and then be done. But you do that on a regular basis, weekly, you will find that you end up getting a lot of scholarships, those applications submitted, obviously then increasing your likelihood of being selected and being chosen. And I think that's kind of going over all of those different funding streams as of right now. So I'm going to go back to that main screen, but open it up to any questions if folks have any that they'd like to unmute themselves and ask specifically. I don't see any chat